We're going to go and get started. Everyone in place. We're going to bring up Mayor Bill Bell first. He's going to be followed by Interim Chief Larry Smith. We're going to bring up Sheriff Mike Andrews, and following those remarks, we're going to take some questions as well. So.
Thank you, Willis. Well, good afternoon. Appreciate all of you taking the time to be here this morning, and I'm sure all of you know why we're here this morning. Just as a bit of brief background, since I've had the opportunity to serve as mayor of the city in 2001, we have had a process in place where we publicly track the violent crime in our community. And over that period of time, from 2001 until 2013, violent crime per 100,000 residents has been decreasing. In 2014, we saw sort of an uptick in violent crime from the previous year, 2013. And obviously what we've seen in 2015 has been a large increase. But even over that period of time when we've tracked violent crime, and most of you know violent crime is aggravated assaults, robberies, rapes, and homicides. Homicides have made up a very small percentage of the violent crime in Durham. But in 2015, not only have we seen an increase in violent crime, and I don't know what the final numbers are because they aren't in for 2015, but we certainly know what the numbers are in terms of homicides, 42. Obviously, we were hoping in 2016 we're going to do much better. But as we look at what has happened in the first 2 weeks of this city with 2 homicides, that is 2 homicides too many. And what I did earlier this week is to speak to the city manager, Tom Bonfield, and told him that I wanted to sit down with both he, our interim police chief, Larry Smith, and Sheriff Mike Andrews to really begin to look at where we are in 2016 as it pertains to violent crime. And you might ask why the sheriff? Well, as most of you know, the sheriff is a constitutionally elected officer. He's really the law enforcement for the total county, which includes the city of Durham. But more importantly, the sheriff's department and the police department have been working together collaboratively over the period of time. So I thought it was very important when we kick off this year that we have the conversation between our 2 law enforcement agencies in the city of Durham, the police chief and the sheriff's department. And I also know that many of you probably were in here when we had some briefings of persons who had attended task force meetings up in Boston and Kansas City. They came back with some recommendations. But this is too important to wait until those recommendations begin implemented. You also know that we're in the process of looking for a police chief. This is too important to wait for a new police chief to come in and address what we're seeing at the first of the year. And it's for those reasons that I wanted to have this meeting. And just as importantly, we wanted to make sure that the general public understood that we take this issue of violent crime in our community very, very seriously. And not just for the general public, more specifically for those persons who are committing violent crimes in our community. It's not going to be tolerated. We don't tolerate it. We're going to put a stop to it, and they need to understand that. Some people are going to be uncomfortable with this. But if they're the right people, they need to be uncomfortable. It's important that we have the community support in what we do as we go forward. But the important thing is we've got to put a stop to it. Now, we understand that you aren't going to reduce violent crime completely. Ideally, that's what we'd like to be able to do. But certainly we can get back on the slope that we were on earlier, and that's where we were reducing violent crime in our community. I'm going to ask the interim police chief, Larry Smith, and Sheriff Andrews to make whatever comments they deem appropriate. We don't want to do anything that's going to possibly undermine some of the work that they're doing. But I can tell you these gentlemen are serious, not only because they are the chief law enforcement officers in this community, they live in this community. They have a history in this community. They have families in this community. They understand the seriousness of it just like you and I do. And for that reason, I'm convinced that we're going to be able to do something with it. But right now, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Smith for any comments, and then followed by Sheriff Andrews.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to share the mayor's concern and outrage over these, not only the homicides, but the level of shootings we've seen in this city. I've been with the police department now almost 28 years, and I haven't seen quite the level of shootings we've been having in the city as I've seen certainly in the last 8 months, but in the last year. And I want to say, just like there's no excuse for this. There's never any excuse to take up guns and shoot people's homes or shoot their cars for whatever reason that you may think that's appropriate. There's never an excuse for it. And we recognize this when we saw the homicides increasing, when we saw the numbers of shootings increasing, that we needed to do something a little bit different. So just to tell you what we have planned for the city and for the police department for here going forward, we've taken all of our proactive units and we have put them under our Special Operations Division commander. Those units come spread out about the city. Some of them, our 4 heat teams are under 4 different commanders, but now they'll be under one commander. Because we know that right now the city needs one mission, and that's dealing with the violent crime. And what we have done, we have worked through our intelligence unit, and as of right now, we've identified 19 individuals, either through by past behavior or through intelligence. We know there's a high probability that they have been actively involved in some of the violence that's been going on in the city. And we're going to do everything we can within legal means to deal with those individuals, to put them in jail if they're the ones that's going to take up guns and shoot up our communities. That list will be ever changing. 2 of them are already in custody. We had an encounter with one of them yesterday. He was out on bond on drug charges. He's back in jail on drug charges. And we will have success at that. We will, as a police department, we'll have success at that. But we will have a whole lot more success if the citizens of this community, especially those communities that are hardest hit by this violence, will come along beside us and help us deal with this. We're concerned about this. Call us. Call Crime Stoppers, 683-1200. Many times people don't want to get involved in this for fear, and I understand that. But you can be completely anonymous through Crime Stoppers. We started a Gun Stoppers campaign. Many of this is gun-related. If you know of someone, you've heard of someone that's carrying a gun, you've heard of some beef, I don't care where it comes from. Maybe you've heard it, maybe a parent has heard it through a child at school or a grandmother. Call and give us the information. We want to deal with that. Because we want to put a stop to this, because there is no excuse for this type of violence in our community. Thank you.
Sure.
I have a prepared statement. Whether you live in northern Durham County, South Durham, East or Central Durham, this is your problem. This is everyone's problem. There is no such thing as not in my backyard. When it comes to bloodshed in our streets, our neighborhoods, and our communities, I'm a Durham native. I'm a father, soon-to-be grandfather, a law enforcement officer, and I know the value of family and the loss of a loved one. It pains me to see young people dying in our community. I want to speak directly to those who are living a lifestyle that could get them killed or influence them to kill. Just don't do it. You have options. We are standing here together today, united to tell you that you don't have to pick up another gun, another weapon, or raise your hands to end another man or woman's life. I want to encourage you to make better choices that will save your life and the lives of others. The people who are tempting you, drawing you into a life of crime, fast money are not your friends. A life of crime and killing is a fast track to prison or the cemetery. Reach out to your church, an outreach program, a community leader, someone you trust to take a different path. I'm here to encourage you to choose life. Choose your family, choose your loved ones over that than senseless violence. There are too many families grieving the loss of their loved ones. One life lost is too many. I don't want to see you in my detention facility. We already have more than 50 detainees facing murder charges now in the Durham County Detention Facility. We do not need another life behind bars. I don't want to see you in court, and I don't want to see you in the news handcuffed, walking in shame. the most important thing that myself, the mayor, the men and women of everyone in this community is we want to see you succeed. More importantly, we want to see you live. If you're between the ages of 11 and 16, my office has a program to help you and your family, a program to help you make better choices. This program mentors entire families. We can offer a program, but if no one is participating, then we are not reaching the people who need us the most. I would encourage our news media partners to reach out to help us spread the word about this program. And after all times like this, we are one family in Durham. Let's stop the violence once and for all. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff. I don't know if we have questions for the sheriff, if anyone. If you would, identify your name, your address, you know the routine.
Steve Sprague,
Sure.
WNCL. The chief.
Let me, I hit to the right now, go to my left, fine.
Chris Williams with Time Warner Cable News. It's for Chief Smith. You say you identified 19 people who you believe are responsible for the violence. Do you believe that a lot of these incidents are connected? And what are the statuses of these offenders?
Some of them are connected. We know some of them are connected. The status of the offenders varies. Some of them are out on bond, like one of the individuals we arrested yesterday. Some of them are on probation. Some of them are not in any type of court mandated program or anything else.
Steve Sprague, WNCN. Tell us about this proactive effort that you're going to be doing. What are these units going to be doing? They're going to be driving around on motorcycles, they're going to be in the streets talking to folks face to face. What are they going to be doing?
Primarily what they're going to be doing starting out is identifying, we got the individuals identified, their associates, where they're at, and dealing with them. I'm not going to go into too many details, but dealing with them by all legal means possible to make sure they're not in our city with guns, going places to commit acts of violence. And we do that by many different ways, but I'm not going to go into the details of that.
But these units are going to be active, what, 24/7 on the streets, or?
Not 24/7, but they will be a lot of units out at different times, but it won't be a 24/7 program.
And the aim is to stop the crimes before they happen?
That's part of it. That's part of it. We want these 19 people who we know have a propensity for this type of violence to know that they're not just going to be able to ride around or go somewhere and step out of a car and shoot a house, shoot a car up, that law enforcement may be near them or already knocking on their door having conversations with
Are
them.
you concerned about the constitutionality of this?
I said we would work within all legal means possible. We always work within the law and the Constitution. Yes, ma'am.
Virginia from the News and Observer. So what role does gang affiliation play in this violence?
They play some. Many of those that we have identified have gang involvement. Many
We spoke with one person who said that a couple of gang leaders had been arrested and that put some of the younger gang members kind of like a live wire. Is that part of the issue?
I can't speak specifically to that. We hear that a lot of times. A gang member's been arrested, now there's a battle for control. We hear those types of intelligence. We vet those things through our intelligence unit, try to determine if that may be causing some of that.
I guess the question I have followed with Steve's question is, what is the difference between your proactive unit and your special operations unit?
Well, they're all proactive, but the heat teams are spread about the city, at many times at the mission of the district commander and the problems of that district, which vary. Now everyone's coming together with one single mission, and that is to try to deal with individuals that we know have been involved in violence and likely to continue to be involved in violence in the city of Durham.
Ariel Clay, WREL News. So my question is that a lot of times we hear the, I guess, rhetoric of the community has to be involved. And I guess my question is, what do you think will encourage or inspire the community that you're talking about, which I'm guessing is the community that is where these crimes are happening, to want to speak up? Because from what we're hearing, a lot of them are, one, afraid to even speak to us, so I'm guessing they'd definitely be afraid to speak to the police. So what would encourage them to want to speak up in your eyes, I guess?
Well, to me, I think if I live in a community and I have to worry about somebody stepping out and shooting a house and those rounds coming through my home, that would be enough to motivate me to say enough is enough of this. Now I understand the fear concern, but that's why I mentioned Crime Stoppers. And as of late, we've gotten some very good information and leads through our Crime Stoppers on some violent crimes. So there is a way to do it and do it anonymously. But I understand there has to come a point where we have to say, I'm not tolerating this in my neighborhood anymore. I know things, and I'm gonna do what I can to put a stop to it.
Chris from ABC 11, Chris Hart from ABC 11. What do you attribute the vast increase in homicides to from one calendar year to the next? Is there a direct correlation in action, some event, or is it just a coincidence?
Well, the unique thing about the homicides that happened last year compared to years prior was we actually, although we had more homicides, we didn't have as many what we call group or potentially gang-involved homicides in 2015, although we had more as opposed to 2014. We had a lot of unusual type, we had a lot of domestics, we had a couple self-defense type homicides. So I'm not really sure that we can pinpoint any one thing that led to the increase in homicides, which leads me to my concern more about the shootings. I can have more of an impact, our units and our officers can have more impact, we think, on the shootings, which ultimately could very well lead to a homicide than we can in any individual homicide.
These 19 individuals that you've targeted, are they known to each other?
Some of them are. Some of them are.
And I have a follow-up about the 19 individuals as well. So it's varying, right? So some of them they've been in and out of jail, they are active in the community when it comes to crime, is that?
That's correct.
Looking back on the past year or so, do you guys feel like you guys have failed or let down the residents in any way?
I don't. This is not the first time that we've had a rise in crime, and we've put together an operation to deal with it. We had an uptick in early 2015 similar to this. It was more geographically based, and we put together an operation similar to this, and we were able to bring that down significantly. Anytime we see something rise of this significance, it's our responsibility to try to do something about that. But once again, the citizens have a responsibility. And as the interim chief, I'm telling you, we need their help. They know much more about what's going on out there than I do. I've got 500 officers and not that many right now. I got as many as we can put out on the streets at any given time. But there's a lot of people in these communities that know things, and we really need to hear from them. And there's a lot of programs, a lot of things out there that the sheriff mentioned. There's a lot of faith-based, there's a lot of nonprofits, there's a lot of things to direct people to try to get them out of this. And we've met with many churches, the mayor's violent crime initiative. There's many ways if people want to do something different that they can do it.
Chief, Joanna Atkins from ABC 11. I know that you said it's hard to pinpoint what exactly the contribution is to this rise, but last year there were 22 homicides, this year 42. I did the math, it's about a 91% increase. Would it be safe to say at this point that there is some sort of gang turf war? Is that 19 individuals responsible for most of the crime here?
No, that wouldn't be fair to say. We'd have no intelligence that we have any type of gang or turf war. That lends you to believe that this group is warring against this group, and that may be some of that on a small scale, but not on a large gang war type,
And if I can, I just want to get your take. Minister Paul Scott has come out and said, he wants to start this vigilante group. They need to take back the streets by any means necessary. You talk about getting the community involved. Is this how you want the community involved, and what are your thoughts on that?
we want the community involved, but I don't have any comment on vigilante. Vigilante, that word alone lends me to some concern. People who want to come along and legitimately help, we're all for that. But I don't have any comment specifically on that. I don't know much about that.
I'm Bishop Harris from Stop the Violence Crusade for Christ, and my concerns is that I've labored inside the city of Durham for the last 15 years and kept up with statistics, worked with all the offenders from gang violence, helping the troops, worked with the last 5 chief of police, and I know that one of our chief, Chalmers, he has started a program for people who are broken, people who are hurting, people who are desperate, and people who need help so they don't end up doing violent acts because they need jobs, they need income, they need help. And it's dealing with the anger and the frustration level on people who are acting out impulsively without stopping and thinking, because I lost my son November the 7th. I labored for 15 years inside the city of Durham as the founder of Stop the Violence Crusade for Christ. My ministry is in the inner city where I chose to be to make a difference inside of the city of Durham. I have continued to labor. I'm going to continue to labor and stand up for every homicide victim and every person of violence. I've traveled the world with school massacre shootings, and I need the community to work more, our officers to work more with the community. Because one press meeting and we just talking and not being about it and not coming together more, you were going to continue to see the violence. We need more proactive working together, not just one meeting, but working together more. How would you address that?
First of all, I appreciate your comments, I appreciate the work you've done, but this isn't one press meeting. The purpose of this meeting, as I indicated earlier, the way the year started out, it was important that the public understands that we take this as a priority. There are going to be ongoing efforts that involve the community. I mentioned the fact that the work that was done in Boston, the work that was done in Kansas City. At some point in time, that's going to come together. But I don't want to wait until that comes together. I don't want to wait until we have a new police chief before we start addressing what we know is a serious issue. So that's the purpose of this meeting. Not only to let the public know, but also to let those guys and women know that are committing this stuff, that we aren't going to tolerate it. And we're going to put processes in place that the police chief has outlined to stop it and to make them uncomfortable doing it. And it's no question that a lot of people know what's going on in this community. And I want to say this, I've been one that talked about black-on-black crimes. It's happening. But let me say this, it's a very small percentage of African-American males and women that are doing this. The vast majority of African-American males, even though they have some of the same issues, some of the same problems, they are not here shooting guns, killing people, robbing people. And that's the point that we want to make clear, that small minority that's doing this, we're going to get to them.
I agree with you. I think that the problem of homicide is bigger than black-on-black crime.
I agree with that too. I'm not going to get. I appreciate. I know you well. You know me. I appreciate the work that you're doing, and you can be of help, and we want you to be of help.
I just want to let you know that we started the Boston Gym facility free for inner city kids from the ages 12 to 30. They can come free, get counseling, get free Boston training alternative, and we need to get that put out.
Why don't you get with my office,
Yes, sir.
and we'll make sure that gets out. Seriously, do that.
Free to come into it.
Thank you.
Chief Smith or Mayor Bell, is there going to be any police or city resources dedicated to ensuring that the community will come forward with any information? We've already talked about special forces being out on the ground, but are there going to be any extra resources in the community, talking with community members to find out what they know and help them trust the police department in order to come forward?
That will be part of this operation as we have officers out. They will be out into some of the communities, talking to some of the folks as to trying to get that information as to what may be driving some of that. That's always part of this.
And is the goal overall to get all 19 arrested and in jail? Is that the goal?
The goal is to stop the violence. The goal is to bring the shootings down. Now, I don't have a particular goal to go after any one particular person for any particular thing. But as long as I think that person, or if that person's committing crime and we know that person has a history of violence in our city, then that's what we're going to be dealing with. But ultimately, the goal is...
on these 19, is that?
That's correct.
You may have already addressed this, but of those 19, have you established some kind of motive as to why they?
With some we have. With some we have. And like I said, that number is going to be an ever-changing number.
Could you elaborate on what you have found with the motive to be?
No.
Will the precincts be more active? Because I know we got precincts in a lot of geographical areas of the city, but I just don't see them as proactive as coming out and being around and knocking on the doors and seeing what the community needs more, and just being involved more. So when you get the precincts inside of the city of Durham, be more proactive.
I'm not sure I know what you mean when you say precincts. Our patrol staff will still be doing what our patrol staff does. Many of you know we're doing a staffing study right now, looking at some things. Right now, the patrol officers who are out working 911 calls, they're responding to citizens' 911 calls, and they will continue to do that.
Our church is located in 953 East Main Street, our First Street Baptist Church. I'm the founder of that as well. And we have had a tremendous amount of shootings and deaths right in that geographical area. And a lot of times we're calling 911 almost every day, and we're not getting enough assistance in that area. So I'm talking to a lot of officers who wanted to set up a sting operation, and I told them they could use my building to spy out the window on that neighborhood, that geographical neighborhood. But that's part of the hardest part of the battle in that area, and there's been a lot of deaths in that area of Main Street in East Durham. And just all over Durham has been problematic. So I just want to know what our precincts are doing.
Once again, our officers will be responding to 911 calls, sir. We'll be handling the issues we can handle as best we can. But right now, our priority, all precincts, all city resources, other than our patrol staff, is going to be concentrating on dealing with what may be driving the violence in this city. That's what we'll be concentrating on.
We got to wrap this. We get one last question. Any last comments from you guys at all, or?
I just want to say one, I'd like to follow up something. We have individuals in this community that have no business and that are not of age to carry a firearm. And we need to ask, I don't care who you are, I don't want your name. The only thing that we're asking you is to pick up that phone and to call and let us know who has that gun. So the main thing is we've got 16 and 17-year-olds out in the community with guns that do not belong or need to have guns that are causing violence in this community, and it needs to stop, and we need the community's assistance. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think the mayor, chief, and sheriff will be around for another minute if you want to get interviews with them. Thank you.
Thank you.